Hey, this is Chris. A lot of times I have not necessarily a script, but at least a rough outline that I'm referencing so I can stay on track. I already have difficulties with digressing, as a lot of my viewers know, so I need that reminder in front of me nonstop so that I'm not really going off on some wild tangents. But I'm going to do this one, no script, no outline, no nothing. We're just going to give you some of my honest feedback based off of my experiences working the grand narrative in Atlanta, Georgia this year, and what that meant to me, and how it's really changed my perspective on Warhammer, and how it's going to change, continue to change in the future. So so roll the intro, right? We know what you're here for. All right, before we dig in, there's some things I do want to say. The first one is that I do have a 40k GT coming up in January. I've been committed to that despite having taken almost a year and a half off of 40k. I will be playing Dark Eldar. We're going to do some list reviews, and I do have a video series coming up where we start talking about Dark Eldar again. So let's get a big yay! We're gonna start doing some more Dark Eldar content. I know I've kind of dipped into some 40k content here and there in the past, but this time is going to be a little bit different, and we're going to talk about why, and you're going to understand why by the end of this video. Also, if you like my hoodie, it had stuff on it. You can get that at my Fourth Wall store. I'd appreciate it. There's a link in the description for that. And, you know, any merch you buy obviously helps support me. The other thing is that we are at 1,267 subscribers. We are continuously growing. So if you like the content, please subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything other than the brief second it takes for you to hit that button. And that helps support me in a way that allows me to continue making content. And then I have one last announcement. We are doing a Firefight ATC style tournament in December. It'll be a 3-person per team tournament. I've got all that stuff kind of in the works. We had to shift it from that Saturday to that Sunday, so it's not the 13th, it's the 14th of December. And right now we're looking at, I think, 4 or 5 teams, and then I've got a ringer team, so we should have somewhere between 4 and 6 is the goal, and I think it's going to be a good turnout. And that's pretty solid numbers, you know, especially for being out in the middle of nowhere in Indiana. If you know where I'm from, getting that many people for a game that isn't Games Workshop is a pretty big milestone. Now, we've done all the announcements. We've done everything we need to do. Let's talk about the Grand Narrative and what it is. Let's start there. The Grand Narrative is an event that GW does every year. The last few years have been in Atlanta, and they have, I believe, other narrative events that incorporate into this, but I'm not going to pretend like I know because I don't work them. So if they do one in Europe or multiple in Europe, I have not worked them, so I don't really know because I don't really follow that side of Warhammer community. I'm not trying to keep up with what's going on in the Grand Narrative stuff. I will say that the Grand Narrative is an event that I have wanted to work since I've started working with Games Workshop. It has sounded like an absolute blast. I never really got a chance. This year was a little bit different. If you've never been, I highly recommend that if you have the ability, you should go. It will change the way you look at Warhammer. It will change the way you look at it as both a game and as a community. And that's what it did for me. You know, so for the last year and a half, I've been kind of poo-pooing 40k, talking about how it's not for me, it's not very good, I'm not really happy with it right now. And I needed that time off regardless. I needed to explore some other games, I needed to find other things. And I've been able to find games that I'm going to incorporate into my normal everyday playing. Firefight is a blast. My daughter loves it. We're going to continue to go drive to Firefight events together because that's a great way for her and I to have time together to go do things. You know, bolt action is a lot of fun, and I've gotten new friends because of bolt action, so I might still go out to bolt action tournaments here and there. I don't expect to be a very high skill player at bolt action because it's not a game where I'm going to dump all of my time and resources into it. Whereas, you know, Firefight is one I will continue to commit that level of time to it because I have thoroughly enjoyed it. And it's not that I haven't enjoyed bolt action or conflict, but the community's much smaller where I live for those games, so it's much harder to get consistent gaming. Warhammer, on the other hand, there's no problem getting games for that, right? I have to say, the one thing Atlanta did for me was it reminded me that as of right now, There's no community like the Warhammer community. You can say whatever you want to about it. You can talk about the salty, sweaty neckbeards and the grognards and all that. And they exist, but they exist in every game. And a good example of that is when Conflict first came out, I was pumped. I've been eyeballing that game for a long time, so I really wanted to check it out. But when I looked at the online community talking about the edition change, they were just as salty and just as whiny as any 40k community I had ever seen. Oh, this is no longer this, boo-hoo, boo-hoo. And I get it. Nobody likes change. Nobody wants change. But as a person who's now seen multiple communities from a very kind of macro scale, those people exist in all communities. You just see and hear more of the Warhammer community because it's the biggest. Now, they may have disproportionately more. They may have disproportionately less. I don't know. I don't care. I'm just saying it makes sense that when it is the biggest community, you're going to have the loudest voices, right? But there's no community like it, at least that I've experienced. And that was such a great reminder for me at Atlanta. It reminded me that the community is what makes Warhammer great. The game fucking sucks. Like it does. And you can enjoy it, and that's okay. But it's not the cleanest written set of rules. It's not the most balanced set of rules. It's not even the most, fluffy set of rules. It kind of walks this weird middle ground with a lot of that stuff, and it's not very interactive. But the community is what makes it great. When I got to Atlanta, I had, they called me 10 days-ish before I had to fly. My boss even buttered me up. He was like, "Oh, Chris, my favorite Games Workshop employee. Yeah, buddy, what do you want?" And I flew out there, and I was a Catachan, which you'll get to see in a little bit here. I've got the Warhammer community website pulled up so we can kind of look at some of the pictures and stuff. I did take some of my own, but their community photographer is much better than I am. I got to experience this as a worker, but not once did I ever feel like I was a tournament organizer or a judge. I just felt like another part of the community, another part of the game. I was in costume the whole time. I had to give some rulings on tables occasionally. But for the most part, I was there to just make sure everybody had fun. And it was the first event I'd ever been to outside of a Adepticon. And it's the only time I've been to an event is a Games Workshop event where the players all come in costume, they're all dressed up, they're giving out their own stickers and swag and all this other stuff. And it is such a just mind-blowing event to share that passion with all of these people and to just look at it and see how much joy it brings them and how much love they have for it, and to be reminded that at the end of the day, that's really what it's about. It doesn't matter if the game's great or not great. The game can be average. The game can be kind of bad even. But what's important is that you're enjoying it with your friends. And man, Atlanta really just opened that back up for me. It just kind of revamped that passion. And I've worked other GW events even while I've been taking my hiatus. I worked Gen Con, I've worked a couple others, but none of them really opened my eyes the way the Grand Narrative did. That was mind-blowing, just sharing that passion, that love, and seeing it again. And it just made me feel good to be a part of the Warhammer community again. And I really look forward to getting back integrated with the Warhammer community. I haven't necessarily stepped away completely. I've just kind of stayed adjacent. I still talk to a lot of the guys I used to play with. I'm still very much in tune with what's going on locally with our community. I still don't pay attention to what's happening in the meta. I don't care. I still just kind of do my own thing. But no, it just really was an amazing experience. And let's take a look at some of the pictures that the Warhammer community did. So right here, this is everybody who won a trophy. There were trophies for the narrative. There's a lot of different things. Some of them were good. Like protagonist, antagonist, armor of contempt award. So you got best cosplay, best theme. Henrik Steelman, awesome costume. He was the Mandrake. You can kind of see him here, that white hair. Younger kid too. I mean, if I had to guess, I'd put him somewhere between 17 and 20. Maybe even a little younger. phenomenal kid. He was real nice. He came into Catachan a few times. Just an overall great dude. Had a lot of fun seeing him in the room. The thematic award for best theme, Dave Gormley, which is this war boss you can see. Again, head to toe, really cool, like mega armor style. Had the power claw and everything, or the kill saw, I should say. He had a kill saw, super awesome. You know, we had dudes that. Oh my gosh, I'll even show you. You just got to look at my my bum. Don't look at my bum. They made their own props and they were giving them out. Like, how cool is this? You know, this is awesome. You know, so it was such a great experience, and it was such a good reminder of what Warhammer really is about. All right, so that's the Thousand Sun Sorcerer Vorsh, I believe was his name. The guy that is in costume, super cool dude. I've worked with him at quite a few events. I enjoy working with him. He's a lot of fun. He gave me a hand because this was my first time doing any kind of narrative. And he's worked a lot of narratives. He runs his own narrative events where he lives. And I believe he's running the narrative. So in Hawaii, when I go do this GT, I believe there's a narrative event, and I believe he's running it. I think my autofocus is on. Let me see if I can turn that off real quick. That is silly. Configure autofocus. Please turn off. There we go. Now you get to see my handsome face in all its glory with no autofocus. How you like those apples? But yeah, no, he's awesome. Whole lot of fun to work with. First narrative event, and I didn't know what I was doing. You know, everybody, if you've never worked an event, like a major big event like a GT or something, there's not usually a lot of time. Like, once you get there, that's it. It's go time. So nobody really had time to sit down with me and be like, here's what you got to do, here's what you got to do. There were a couple of calls I could have been on, but because of my work schedule and what was going on in my life at the time, my wife was getting ready for surgery and actually had surgery the day before I left, but that's a whole different story altogether. It wasn't scheduled until after I already had my plane tickets and stuff, but anyway, so he was just like, all right, we got to get this decorated. So he gave me a hand just kind of like explaining how everything goes. So we got like some Spanish moss and all this other stuff and had all these vines and stuff hanging down. And man, it was so awesome to have people come down into Catachan, which is just some basement rooms in a hotel, and just say, man, Catachan is like the best room I've been in so far. You know, we had essential oils that were giving off dirt smells. It was so immersive with all the vines and stuff, and to have so many people tell me that really made me feel good. And a lot of that is because this gentleman right here, his name is also Chris, did a great job of just kind of helping me out and explaining to me what we needed to do. I do know who's behind that mask, but I'm not spoiling it for anybody. And then we have Trezin, which I found out that's actually how you say his name. It's not Trezin, it's Trezin. I don't really care. You can say it how you want. I'm going to say it how I want. At the end of the day, it's a fictional character. But that cosplay is phenomenal. And that is my boss in that costume, and he did great as Trezin. He was phenomenal. He really sold it very well. I've never seen this side of him, so to be able to see that was pretty cool. And man, like, you can't see it in the picture, but anywhere you see green, it is lit and it is glowing. And that thing is just amazing. I've got some video of it kind of moving around and the lights flashing and stuff. I'll try to get that up, but it is fantastic. So cool. And then here we have, he's a naval officer. One of the other Vox Localums is what they're called. Vox Localums are kind of like your planet TOs or judges. So like I was the Catachan Vox Localum, and I had just met him and this dude right here for the first time. Great dudes. I enjoyed working with them. Again, there's nobody on the staff that I didn't enjoy working with. So that's my boy Will. We've worked a lot of events together, so it was cool because his room was right next to mine, so we got to kind of like BS every once in a while and just kind of hang out every once in a while, so that was nice. He was in Fenris as a, forget what he was, like a Reed's Bones, right? He's a room priest. There we go. I had to like use the brain. This dude's name's Drake. Super cool dude. Had a lot of fun meeting him for the first time. These guys all came in costume. They were awesome. They came down to Catachan. They were a good time. And like there were some after hours conversations where I was sitting down. They were drinking beer. I quit drinking. And just so everybody knows, like I'm 8 weeks sober now. No drinking. Didn't drink the whole event, but they were having some beers. I sat down with them because some of my other buddies were down there too. and like just had some good like adult conversations about life in general and stuff. So that was pretty cool. And then this dude's name, Steve, a lot of fun. Really liked working with Steve. He was cool. And then we've got the Harlequin, the Cadian. His name's Shay. Awesome dude. Great time with him. And then you have Lydia as a battle sister. I learned a lot from watching her. She's worked multiple narratives also, and she was downstairs in the same region I was in. So and Will's not much for getting in character or anything like that. Like he did fine, but she goes above and beyond, and to be able to see like how I could do this and to be able to kind of learn from watching, she was a great example for that. And then Chaos. There's Dave in his war boss outfit. Digga boss, that's what he calls himself. And then that's my boy Boz, awesome dude. I've worked with him since I've started. He's a cool dude. And then there's me. Look at that handsome Catachan. And man, I'm gonna tell you, I racked my brain because like we're supposed to be in character. This is supposed to be like almost like a LARP, like a live action role play experience. We're supposed to be in character a lot. And the whole time I'm just like, I don't know what to do, man. Like I don't even know how a Catachan would talk. And you know, I went through my brain with all these options. Like, oh, well, I could like Sergeant Johnson, you know, like I know what the ladies like, you know, and that type of stuff. I thought about anything, and then, man, the day of, I was just like, you know, I think TK would probably be a Catachan. That makes sense. And so, like, it just came out, like, people were coming in, and I was like, hey there, are you here for the jungle? You know? And what was really funny is I had, on two separate occasions, I had two battle groups where one of them came up to me, that's the teams. One of the guys came up to me and was like, are you from, where are you from? And I would stop being, you know, the Catachan for a minute. I would be like, oh, I'm from around Chicago on the Indiana side. Because it's so much easier than just saying like, oh, I'm from Valparaiso, right? And their minds would be blown. Because like one dude was like, man, I thought you were from Alabama because you literally sound just like my uncles and we're all from Alabama. And I just started cracking up like, all right, like I guess it's working. But yeah, so that was cool. And thankfully, they gave me something that was relatively easy to do because I would have struggled to get anything together in such short notice, which I'm sure is part of why they had me do it. Like, oh, Chris could be the Catachan. He's got like 10 days notice. Like, he can make something work. And I did. It came together really well. And the one thing it did do is it inspired me. Like, I forgot that this is a narrative first game. Like, I got so wrapped up in going to tournaments and just, like, making sure the game was mechanically sound and, like, man, the mechanics are this, the mechanics are that. So there's a small group of us. We're going to start working together to form our own narrative event. And our target is around Veterans Day 2026. Give or take a week, because I don't want it to necessarily overlap with the grand narrative, but I want it to be somewhere in that vicinity just because coming back with that energy is going to help me carry it into my own event. And obviously not everybody around me can go to the grand narrative. So if I can bring back even just a piece of that and share that with everybody, that would really make me happy. That would bring me a lot of joy. So I just wanted to let everybody know, yes, I am back. Yes, I am back for real. And expect, you know, some Drukhari content, some Dark Eldar content, expect some more 40k content. And I'm getting my rotation kind of worked out. You know, we're looking at Dark Eldar, we're looking at Firefight. Dark Eldar in general 40k, I probably won't do much faction dives for anything else. Just Dark Eldar and 40k, Firefight, and then probably still kind of doing like a smattering of other games here and there, you know. But I think the two flagships for me moving forward are going to be Dark Eldar and Firefight, and then potentially picking up maybe like some old world content or something like that as I kind of dive back into that again, and maybe even a little bit of AOS here and there, because again, it's about the community, and man, I forgot how much I miss the community. So the first Dark Eldar video should be up by the end of the week. And I will hopefully get that all edited and everything. And I hope you all enjoyed this. Thank you for sharing it with me. Again, appreciate you. We'll see you next time.